All right, welcome everybody to Data Movement. I'm Sean Cleveland, the Associate Director of Cyberinfrastructure for Information Technology Services in the University of Hawaii System. And as Shivani said, Audrey Nash and Candace Edwards will be working with me on presenting this material. They'll be doing most of the presentation, I think. So hopefully everybody here is interested in learning a little bit about how data moves and using some tools to move research data. So there was a couple things I think that we asked folks to do before they got here today. So some of it was, if you're not familiar with some of the command line shell, maybe having reviewed some of the materials from the software carpentry shell novice tutorial. I think everybody should have a COA account, either prior to this or it was set up for you. And then I think everyone needs, at this point, probably has the multi-factor authentication for their University of Hawaii account enabled. And for folks whose accounts were just created, I think we disabled that requirement. And then you'll need Chrome or Firefox or Edge or some kind of modern browser for the stuff we're going to do today. Let's see. Oh, one other thing. One of the tools that we're going to be using today is called Rclone. So if you haven't already, it might be a good idea to look at installing Rclone on your machine, because this is going to be one of the primary tools besides another tool called Globus that we'll be using today. And with that, I think I'll let Audrey maybe talk about the icebreaker.
So we'll start by doing a little icebreaker. So if we could just there's not many people here today. You want to be in it?
Yeah, I'll be in it, sure.
Okay. I guess I could just split into two groups. So I'll have 4 here and then Candace can join this one. So introduce yourself and just say what department you're in, and your favorite movie. So everybody loves movies. And then if you have any challenges with data storage and movement or anything like that, and then some solutions you've tried. And then we'll just go around after like 5 minutes or so, just kind of talk about that a little bit. Favorite movie, name, department, favorite movie, and then
I'm Candace. I'm in the computer science department. I can go with my favorite Halloween movie.
yeah, let's do that.
Probably The Witch of the it's kind of old at this point, but it's
I'm doing my master's. It's my third year.
yeah, it was scary. It's like campy.
Yeah. But I did it with PhD.
Yeah. Oh, and data movement. My biggest thing was
Oh, yeah.
Steve is Tracy. I'm in the computer science department as well. My favorite movie is, or my favorite Halloween movie that I thought was The Scary Godmother. Halloween Spectacular. It's cartoon. I just think it's very gosh. It's like an old. It's like yeah. I like the
Yeah. Yeah, that's the big man.
But the movements are very like wacky. Isn't that person good, the timber?
Yeah, it looks like timber.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah.
No, it's
It's like similar to yeah. So did you start with the
And so. Right. Right.
It's like I always try to give you bites, but like there's so many filled up. And like before you know 32 gigabyte phone. And like that would be more than enough.
Yeah. He did his PhD.
It's just
My PhD. Oh.
I'm yes, I'm in electrical and computer engineering with a master's, and I have some favorite movies, but it's classic one for its film.
it's a good one.
And I have done a event before coming for my master's. I worked at the California area. Here we have migrated the whole of data warehouse from one to another. This whole thing is changing.
You're like an expert. Yeah.
And then I'm Audrey, I'm in the atmospheric science department. My favorite Halloween movie. Halloween, not really scary. Mine is. I'm thinking about it a lot. It's not like my favorite, but I think I want to go like a little boy for Halloween. Like a little yellow. Yeah. So I'm thinking about that a lot.
Like terrified of clown. Like,
Are you really? I love those Stars cards, so like the new one, thinking about all like, oh, yeah, this is great. And then data movement, I use data, like I use Globus all the time, so like I use big. Like globally created models. So before I used Globus and like about them. I was like downloading and days. And then I uploaded it to the HPC. And for me, it's like, why are those? And I was like, what is that? Find it used.
do you watch like those, like, have you watched
No, I haven't.
I feel like there are different kinds of security.
Oh, I did science. Studio. Yeah.
I don't watch them because I'm scared.
Every Friday.
When there's a German one, I think it's like oh god. There's like this at night. It's just it's not a jump scare, but it's more just like
Oh, it's recent.
like
I have seen it.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen like every day. It's alright.
Again, sorry. We can never be.
it's pretty popular.
It's not new.
It's a brand new.
That was really good one. I was thinking.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's, you know,
Yeah, I didn't even agree that.
well, those are like the most recent season.
No, I mean the first.
They were kids. No, that's how I like. And then there's the new one is Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah,
Yeah, those are on my list.
Yeah.
I think it's more on the story side.
See, yeah, I don't do too well with
Hawaii.
words.
It's like great.
Like you just make me want to throw up.
Oh, yeah. I go to the market.
Fine.
Yeah, like, so you can like click any of that. Yeah.
Yes.
Um, let's just go around the room really quickly and just introduce ourselves yet again. And give a favorite movie. We did Halloween movies over here. To the season. And then just something quick about data movement that you encountered. Let's start here.
I'm young, so third movie should be Avengers in the Avengers 4, I would say. So the data transfer stuff, right? I did transfer like 400 kilobytes of data assets from my instance to another instance, so if I will learn something here, that would be awesome.
I am Masato from the School of Cyber Sciences. I have struggled to hear about the Google Drive and how many days so I have to move my 70 terabytes of the data to somewhere, and then I would like to use Google Drive. This 70 terabyte. So I would like to see if there is any solution to do that. If I move here, I'll be sorry. Yeah, check out on that.
Sorry, I'm trying to install Rclone on mine. I actually don't move data that much. My most recent was moving from Mono to Koa.
How you moved it or?
Yeah, I have
You did,
that, but yeah, I just use Rsync because I don't have data.
I'm Joe, with NRAM, we moving, we work with satellite in the US sometime soon, so I decided to take this class and create a strike, so I don't really change. And shot on the bench.
Yeah.
I'm Rclone, here is the student of percent sharpening. About that, I will at the class. I try to supervise computers and use Rclone. Yeah.
So I'm Amila, I'm doing computer science, and I'm also like frequently working with high performance computing, and I would often deal with like, managing satellite data, so I sometimes have like moved it around.
Hi, I'm Candace. I'm in the computer science department. My favorite Halloween movie is The Witches of Eastwick. And I would say my most challenging data movement challenge was just prepping for this workshop. So,
My name is Tracy. I'm in the computer science department. My favorite movie that I said was the Scary Godmother Halloween Spectacular, which is like a cartoon. And it's not my most challenging experience with data movement, but I was just talking about how like on the phones it kind of scales with how big data is nowadays, where like you need at least 120 gigabytes to hold all of your information on your phone, and that's just going to keep going up.
Hi, I'm 5 years here. I'm in electrical and computer engineering department. So my favorite movie, like related to horror, is Saw, and it's about data movement. So I used to work for a tech company, and there I did some data migration from GCP to another platform. That's it.
I'm Audrey. My favorite Halloween movie is It. Something will be the little boy for And I use Globus all the time because I work with like large globally gridded data products. So that's an issue I faced in the past, and it's super helpful and it's super fast. And we'll give it back to Sean.
Okay. All right. Yeah, hopefully everyone got a little bit out of that and exercise there. So let me dive into a couple things here. So yeah, just to reiterate what we're going to cover a couple things today. Hopefully everybody maybe watched a recording of, say, the lecture part of the workshop that covers a couple of these things. If you didn't, then don't worry about it, because I will briefly cover some of the topics that are relevant to some of the data movement things that we're going to discuss today, that some of the high points, so that if you didn't watch it, that's okay. And then we will get into the hands-on part using Globus and Rclone that Audrey and Candace will be covering. But before we get there, I'm just going to talk a little bit for folks who don't know, the Cyberinfrastructure Group and the Data Science Institute, kind of some of our goals here. Just give you a little background on this, and then as it relates to data and data transfer and some of the services that are available to all of you folks as researchers. So we have a mission to support data intensive research and scholarship at UH, and we have kind of four main focuses: so advanced computing resources, data services, science as a service, and collaborative research. We have a team of folks that are present to support those four main areas. We obviously collaborate with the Hawaii Data Science Institute that's putting on this workshop today. A bunch of you folks, I think, are already there that are fellows. We provide training and education, and there's a bunch of these things that I'm kind of just going to skip through. But if you're not aware, we have high performance computing resources. So this is advanced computing stuff. So above your workstation, above your laptop, we have a large cluster that you can leverage to for free for faculty, researchers, student, and staff to do your work. This is funded by funds. This is funded by funds that our group writes grants for to buy equipment, and then also researchers themselves buy infrastructure, by compute to put into the cluster so that they themselves can use it, but also when they're not using it, others can use it. So coming online here, we have some additional infrastructure that we just got 2 awards for related to computing. So adding additional A30 and A4000 GPUs, additional CPU compute, and then additional storage. So this is sort of relevant to some of the data transfer things. Is moving data on and off of a cluster like this is something that folks do, and this is going to be some of the examples today. So we've added additional scratch space for people to do high performance work on, as well as 5 or 6 more petabytes of high performance storage for folks to be able to stage data on and off of this resource. If you don't know, you can access this resource with a web browser. There's typical terminal stuff. We have Jupyter, RStudio. We also have some interactive sort of like desktop, we call them VNC environments to be able to do this. And we have connections of 100 gigabit per second data transfer. So this is important for that data movement piece. So in and out of the cluster, you can move data very fast. We do have some centralized software that we maintain for folks to access, and then you can install your own things on here with, say, Anaconda, to install different packages or whatever software that you need to do your research. We support quite a bit of research over the last almost 10 years that we've been doing this. If you're interested, so most of you should have an account, but if you have a temporary account, you can always sign up for an onboarding later. We do help with research data movement. So that's what today's workshop is about. So if you have trouble moving data, if you see that moving data from your lab to your home or from the cloud or your collaborators to your workstation or to any of our infrastructure isn't as fast as you think it is, then you should reach out to us and let us know that you're having problems. Or if you need to move a really large amount of data, we can also help you figure out, what might be the most efficient way to do that. And so we'll discuss a little bit about that today. We do have this service that I won't dive into too much because Audrey's going to talk about that. We have access to additional resources. So there's sort of a cloud that the National Science Foundation funds that we have a chunk of here in Hawaii, and we also have access to the larger chunk of this cloud at the Indiana University. So if you want help getting access to this to be able to run custom virtual machines, so like your own server to run databases or long services, or kind of do any kind of compute that you want to do that might need to stay on for a little while that doesn't really fit within the sort of batch computing environment, this is a really good resource. There's also additional larger computing infrastructure than we have that's available to folks through the National Science Foundation. So access is the way to get that. So if you're needing additional resources, you can reach out to us and we'll help with that. This is just a slide about Jetstream. You can see the gold arrow here. We are a partner in this and we have a little piece of this here. There are A100 accelerators on Jetstream. So if you're doing AI or deep learning type of research, or you have code that can use some of these big accelerators, this is an option for you. If you need help finding ways to bring data, software, and other things together within your community, these are called science gateways. There's a whole institute devoted to these, and we partner with these folks and we build some ourselves. We help with development for workflows and pipelines. So we've developed gateways and tools to help groups like the CMyInky group for analyzing microbiome data. So we help other folks with that. We help with software and data science services. So if you need portions of professional staff to do that, we do have a service for doing that with folks, and we partner with the Department of Health and some other folks on doing this. Reproducibility is an important thing. So if you're looking for help on how you can make your workflows more reproducible, we do assist with that as well. And we write grants and we collaborate with folks. And so these are some of the awards that we've collaborated on and work with folks on. And to that point, one of the things that's coming down the pipeline related to data is that the Google storage at UH is no longer going to be unlimited. So hopefully everyone's gotten the message at this point that this is the case. If you haven't, and this is the first you're hearing about it, well, I'm glad that you're here to hear about it from us. On January 29th of 2024, so this coming January, unlimited will no longer be available. So if you're over the quotas for the storage for whatever your level is, you'll need to take action to move data out of Google Drive to get under your quota so that you can continue to use it like you normally do. So these are the quotas for folks. If you're faculty, emeritus, or staff, there's 100 gigs of storage for your UH kind of your personal UH drive storage. If you're a student, there's 25 gigs of storage. And there's also 25 gigs of storage for shared drives as well for each shared drive. So what counts? Your Gmail, anything obviously that you have in your drive counts. If you have stuff stored in Google Photos under your UH account, that also is part of the storage quota there. So what happens if you exceed your storage quota? Right now, nothing is happening, but on January 29th, if you are over that, you will not be able to upload new files or images. You'll not be able to create new files. You won't be able to edit or copy files. You won't be able to back up photos or videos to your Google Drive anymore, or your Google Photos that are related to that account, record new meetings or any of that sort of stuff until you move the data out. So if you exceed this,
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? So if you are over the 100 gigabyte, can you still use the Gmail, or Gmail is also out?
So that actually is this slide right here. If you're over, you'll still be able to sign in. You'll still be able to send and receive emails, and you'll be able to view and download data out of that from your drive as well as your photos if you're exceeded there. So they've set some mercy settings there to make sure that email continues to work if you're over, but they're going to encourage people. You won't be able to do anything else really until you move your data out. So there is a link to the hawaii.edu Ask Us 1882. That link there will give you more information about the Google storage stuff. You can also email the ITS help desk for additional information related to that. So any other questions about Google storage?
Yes, so we can pay for extra storage, right? It's just that for free, this is all we have.
Extra storage. Oh,
Okay.
extra storage within Google Drive.
Yeah,
So there right now, I don't think there's any chargeback way to do that. I think there's discussions about that, but there isn't a way. There's not a method for doing that within the UH domain like piece yet. So there are also some alternatives. Obviously, there's a bunch of different cloud storage options. We provide some storage options here for purchasing storage per terabyte per year that is attached to our compute service. There'll be something new coming this November that's going to be called our cloud storage option. It's sort of similar to like a Dropboxy thing where you can have a client on your computer that can sync data up, or you can access a web browser and move data in and out of the cloud type storage. And then there's also going to be an option for folks that need an insanely large amount of storage to be able to buy physical hardware to integrate into the storage cluster that we have. So there's some options that we're going to offer for folks. I think the institution is looking at, can they do something for people to purchase Google Drive storage that will integrate with UH, but I don't have any details on that yet.
Quick question. Sorry. So I have the 1 terabyte of the space in the Mana, in the older server, and I think I purchased it, not the yearly the contract. What happened for that kind of account? That the 1 terabyte storage, is it possible to move to the corner, and it's okay to not pay, or I have to start paying for the yearly time consumption?
So sorry, could you repeat that? What kind of storage was it?
That's 1 terabyte of the space I purchased in the Mana, or all the server, and I have to move to the new server, and then that is what I believe is that I purchased it so permanently, so I don't have to pay every year.
So when did you? I guess I'm not familiar with purchasing it permanently. When did you buy this?
I think that is 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, okay, so this was part of the I think a condo node.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll need to talk about, I think, discuss that. I think yeah, we'll have to look at that a bit more. But yeah, let's talk after the workshop.
Okay.
Sean, I'm so sorry, I have one more question. For the storage options on co-op, is there any backup included in the contract?
So no, there's not backup storage with this. So as part of any good storage management plan, you would want to make sure that you have 3 copies of any important data. So this would be one location for 1 copy, and then you'd want 2 other geographically distinct locations to store some of that data.
Okay.
Okay. Are we okay with the storage piece here? I'm sure if folks have more questions, you can reach out to us after the workshop, and also contact us through email. All right. So with kind of setting the stage for why this data movement might be significant and important to a lot of folks at UH. I'll dive into the actual materials here. Okay, so I think I think I already mentioned this, but one of the main takeaways for like the whole spiel I'm about to give is that there are lots of folks within information technology services that are employed to answer questions about, networks and moving data. So some folks on our team, and then also some folks within, so Alan Winery, he's one of these other folks, and Chris Zane and some other people within ITS are tasked with, helping to improve all of our networks, and then also research specifically to help with any of those transfers. So the takeaway here is hopefully you'll get some of this information, but if you run into issues, feel free to always, reach out and contact us, and don't try and burn a bunch of your own time trying to troubleshoot a bunch of these things, because we have a lot of professionals and experience that can assist with this. So let's see. I think some of the things here, just the high points, like I said, this was kind of a 45-minute lecture in the past, so we're going to really slim this down to just the high points here. UH networking, I assume most folks here are in UH. Your connection for transfer, if you're on Wi-Fi or if you're connected to the building Ethernet, is going to sort of vary depending on where you are at. I think most of the Manoa campus buildings have a 10 gig connection at this point. Like I said, our infrastructure, we have a 100 gigabit connection out to the rest of the research networks to be able to move data in really fast over internet too. So UH is, for the most part, pretty well connected. There may be some other pieces of the University of Hawaii that have varying connections. So it's going to depend on where you are. Also, whether you're on a hard line or if you're on Wi-Fi is going to impact this. And then we're going to talk about some other things that can impact your data transfers. Do know that there's more than one internet. So there's commodity internet, which is what you're used to with Netflix and Amazon and a lot of other things. Then there's research education networks, which is like internet 2, and that's one of the pieces that we're really connected to. So we're connected to both, but a lot of the really high-speed connections that we have to other institutions goes over these research networks here. And I won't dive too much into those paths, but just know that we kind of have two. As we're talking about connectivity, this map here, you can see that we have a couple different connections to, say, the mainland, as well as we have connections to Asia as well. But we have 100 gigabit connections in 2 locations. So like off of sort of Seattle area and then California area, we have those, and then we have redundant 10 gigs. So fortunately, Hawaii, being where it's at and being a strategic location to connect the internet to Asia, we get really good connectivity here. And the campuses all have good connections at 100 gig for the most part to each other within this area. So just know that we're reasonably well connected, and we are connected to Guam at good speeds as well to get to Asia. If you want some more details, you can catch the video. So I'll talk a little bit about the one thing that you want to take out of this data transfer evaluations for your network is, if you're experiencing slowdowns, the one thing you want to look for, you want to kind of look and do is a speed test. There's a pretty easy speed test. This link here, this Libra speed test, or maybe it's Ookla, is an easy way to do it with your browser. So you can just load up that link in your browser. Speedtestuh.net is another one to go to if you're on the campus, and you can see what your upload and download speeds are on your machine. This might tell you that either your Wi-Fi or the other connection you're on isn't so great. But yeah, Ookla is the other one. So that's a real simple thing to click on one of these links and just do kind of a speed test. Other things to know about data transfer. It's not just the network that impacts how fast your data can move. There are things known as queues. So this is the example of a human queue here. People are waiting in line for something. On all of our sort of physical or virtual infrastructure, there are queues as well. Typically, when we think about moving data, we're like, hey, I'm going to move data from my computer through the network to a different computer. And like the only places where stuff is going on that's going to slow things down is this network here. And that's not really the case. There are other layers related here. So within your computer, there's there's memory, there's RAM that has to be accessed to move data. There's protocols that talk to one another, that talk to different parts of, say, your network card to before they hit the internet. So moving data moves through the memory, and then these different protocols here to end up moving the data, and then on the other end they go back the other way, all the way up. So if we're doing a test called iPerf test, it's only reading and writing from memory, so that's going to be super fast. But when we're actually moving files, we add these other layers on top here. So now there's the file, there's this IO within your whatever your storage device is, and then there's this SCSI layer here that can then talk to the memory, and then we can go the rest of the way. So there's all of these layers that probably most of us don't think about when we're moving data back and forth. And so within each of these layers, there are buffers in those as well. So then there's lines to get from one of these layers to the next layer. So there's a bunch of places where things could potentially slow down when you're moving data. So it's not always the network that can be impacting how fast your data is. A lot of times especially on our network where we're like 100 gig connected, things are going to end up in these layers here where there's going to be a slowdown of stuff. So those are just some things to consider. And again, why you might want to reach out and talk to some of us. I don't think I'm going to dive really into TCP. I don't think you'll get a bunch out of it. If you're interested, you can go listen to the full talk here. We'll just touch on transfer programs here. So probably most folks are familiar with like SFTP or doing an scopy, or maybe rsync for moving data around. These are really accessible tools, but if you're moving a large amount of data, so long haul data movement, you may have a problem with some of these things. A lot of them are single threaded, so you're going to limit the amount of data you can move by just being able to move on one thread. There are some versions of these that can do some parallel things. Grid FTP is an advanced version of some of these, and this is what powers Globus. So Audrey will talk about this. We'll say this is a very recommended tool if your resources can use it, and Audrey will tell you why. LFTP is another tool for moving data very efficiently. It's a lot more complicated, and I won't really get into it, but just so you know, there's a number of different tools to move data. Some of them are fine that you're familiar with for moving small data, but if you're moving really big data, you might want to look at some of these other tools that we're going to talk about today. And with that, I will hand it over to Audrey.
Can I share my screen? Thank you. Okay, so like it was briefly touched on, Globus is a tool that is super helpful for moving large data files. So personally, like I work with big gridded products like SST, blah, blah, blah. It can come up to like huge file sizes. And this is a super helpful tool to just transfer large amounts of data like really efficiently. So you can move things from like your personal device to an HPC. You can do that vice versa. You can do HPC to HPC, vice versa. And also you can like transfer from cloud bits as well. Globus uses the grid FTP, which is an extension of the file transfer protocol in a gridded format. Globus is run by the University of Chicago and maintained by them. So it's really, really helpful for research networks. And like I said, you can use it to exchange between your personal device and an HPC, vice versa, anything like that. There's also something called Globus Connect Personal, which we'll go through like a little bit hands-on-ly. And that just adds Globus as an endpoint for your personal device. So you'll make it as a collection So then on the Globus website, you can just transfer that stuff online really fast and very efficiently. So if you guys could follow along with me, go to globus.org. And then at the top right here. In the top right, you will click login up here. And if you have an account already, great. If not, then we can go through the steps to create an account. You already technically like have an association account if you are a part of UH. So all you need is your Duo login. So you'll just add in University of Hawaii here and then click continue. And then for me, it's going to take my to my login. But if you don't have an account, it'll take you to your authentication. And then once you've successfully logged in, just give me a thumbs up. Cool. All right, so then from there, well, how many of you like didn't have accounts already? Okay, a few of you. Okay, so you'll just go through like the basic like sign up completion. So your nonprofit research or educational, and then it's just gonna ask for you to like allow, these are really simple things. But to get to the actual data transfer, like explanation that we're gonna go through, what I need you guys to do is install for your operating system. So down at the bottom on the module are 3 different links. So Mac, Linux, and Windows. So if you could click that and then download the Globus Connect Personal to your device, and then give me a hand when you've done that. And like I said, this just creates an endpoint for Globus. And so then you can go to globus.org and do file transfers. It's not necessarily like an app on your computer that you use. Yes. For me, I just put like my Audrey Nash Globus personal. Yeah. Yeah, I'll get to like the collections in a a bit, but it's, as long as you just know the name, you don't need to know like really any more details about collections, like for the file transfers.
It's just, you're going to explain in next, but, if, you have the collection of the UHHPC.
Yeah,
then
yeah, we'll
for,
do like an example together, yeah. I just want everybody to get it, like downloaded and logged in. Yeah, it's kind of hard because it's different for different operating systems, or otherwise I'd go through it with you guys. You guys need more time?
Audrey, we have one question in the chat here. Is that the label
Yeah.
for future reference?
What is, I'm sorry.
There's a question that says, is that for the label for future reference?
The collections? Yes. Yeah, you just want to, like, if you're making this name of a collection for your personal device, you can, yes, you can use your name for the label. Yeah, it's just as long as you know what your personal collection is named, that's totally fine. You can use your name, you could make up something, it doesn't really matter. It's not necessarily available to anybody else. Okay, so once you guys have that downloaded, the Globus Personal, go back to globus.org and click that login and head to the file manager. So this should be like the standard homepage that you get when you go to Globus and you log in. So like I was saying with collections, they're basically just the names for the Globus endpoints. So if you click here, you can just search a collection. Like here are the past ones that I've searched. So we have the UHHPC. There's also the COA collection. And then I use NCAR a lot. So that's another Globus endpoint that you can transfer from. But just for an example, we'll use like the UHHPC. And so then this brings up your home directory in your HPC because you're already logged in, or maybe because I'm already logged in. You don't have to go through the Duo again, but you might. I'm not sure if you don't have an account. And then over here, if you want to transfer to another like HPC, for example, you can just click one of these. So like transferring all of your data from Mana to COA would be super easy doing this. This is what I did, and I'll show you that in a minute. Or if you want to transfer it from NCAR to Mana or NCAR to COA, it's a super fast tool to get those things done. Also, since we just added our own personal collection, click on that tab, your collections, and then click on that there and add that as your end collection name. Ariana, you look confused.
Why? Doesn't like
What part? Yeah. So you just click like search through collections, and then instead of like recent, you go to your collections on the right, on the tab to the right of bookmarks. Got it?
Fine. For the process. Yeah, mine.
Okay, so then to super simply transfer like any type of file, I'm just gonna show you an example of like a file that I have on my HPC. So you click the file, or you could do like multiple directories, whatnot. You could do anything. You can go up one folder, you can select all, you can do one, you could do a bajillion, you can do like terabytes of data, and it just moves super quickly. So just for an example, I'm gonna move this netcdf file to my personal device, which is my personal collection over here. And all I have to do is just click start. And the great thing about Globus is that it runs asynchronously in the background. So hopefully you'll get a transfer request submitted successfully, a little green box up at the top right. And then from there, you see like a little green notification hopefully pop up on your activity panel on the left side. And this is where you can see all of the transfers that you have requested, that have successfully gone or have failed. So for me, I've done a lot of transfers from NCARD to Mana, and then this was me first attempting to move Mana to Koa. That didn't work. But then I did successfully do it, and then this is the one that I just queued. So the transfer started, it should only take a few minutes, and then you will get notified once it has finished. So there it goes, that was it. This is so much faster than like downloading, especially if you have like poor Wi-Fi and things like that. It's super fast. So for example, like you were talking about moving something that was upwards of 400 gigabytes. So when I transferred my data from Mana to Koa, it was 455 gigabytes, and it only took me 7 minutes and 48 seconds. So it's so fast. And in the past, like I struggled with downloading all my files and netcdfs, and it would just take hours and days and days and days. And then you have to go from there and upload it to your other endpoint. And so this just skips that middleman of having to download and upload and does it directly and super fast.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Is it possible to make the collection to come up my Google Drive browser?
Yes, I haven't necessarily worked with Google Drive, but I think UH has its own, because it's a Globus personal, like they have a Globus personal account. I don't think you necessarily need to add anything on. Let me see.
So we don't have a Google Cloud connector.
Oh, no.
Not for Globus, no. We tested it out a few years ago, and it was so bad, like we didn't pay for it because it was just insanely slow because Google throttled it so bad. So the other tool we're going to show you is it should be a little bit better for moving data out of Google.
Otherwise, I try to upload from my local, but this is a download into my local and then upload.
Right. Yeah, and then this is just pointless. Yeah. Yes.
It is just computer, so can I just take up application of the CF files? I mean, the NASA server, can I just connect it to HPC instead of local?
As long as it has the Globus endpoint, yes.
So the requirement is that's
Yeah, and yeah, you can just like do like a quick search like on the server, like most like servers will, I think. That could be if you might, I'm not sure.
So if you have a Linux server, you should be able to install a Globus endpoint on it. Was that the question?
Yeah.
So yeah, you should be able to install the Globus software on a Linux server. If you have a workstation, your personal laptop, you can install the client just like you've done, like Audrey has shown you here, to do that. But yeah, if you have a server, there are like RPM packages and things like that for Linux to install a Globus endpoint on there, and then you can move data back and forth. And as Audrey said, we do have a subscription, so there's also the option for the Globus Plus option. So you just have to reach out to us and we'll add you to our subscription, and then you'll have a Globus Plus subscription to be able to share data with other folks off of your clients.
Yes.
So this creation of a personal endpoint would expose that endpoint to others?
No, that's from your personal device only. Yeah. Yeah.
Where like we were doing the Globus personal stuff, like asked if we needed extra protection. We do that too. Like it asked me if I have pH.
Sean?
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, the microphone is good for you because you're standing under it, but some of the from the audience sometimes is a little muffled.
She's asking if, or when she installed the Globus Personal, it asked her if she needed extra protection. And what was it, PHI?
Yeah, like pH.
If she had PHI.
So yeah, if you're wanting to work with personal health information, so that's PHI, you would do that for our system for moving data to the COA MANA stuff. We don't have support for like PHI level data or HIPAA data, so you would select that. You probably don't. If you select that, I think you'll run into some other some issues, because I think our endpoint is not doesn't say that it supports PHI, so you won't be able to move probably data back and forth if you select that.
Any other questions about Globus?
So on my side, it
Yeah.
says like mission defined in the. Thing,
What did you use?
So I mean, it's just a shared pool, right?
You wanna share this?
Take this by. Yeah.
So you can.
So,
Yeah.
Okay. If there's no more questions, then we'll take a quick little break and then we'll move on to Rclone. So let's do like 5 minutes.
Everyone, welcome back. We're gonna get started with Rclone. So specifically, we're gonna do a demo that helps you move between COA and Google Drive. So hopefully this is helpful for that specific use case. The first thing I'll share my screen. So in the workshop prep, there's instructions on how to install Rclone. It's only for Windows. I have a Windows machine. So if you have a Mac, they do documentation there. But I'm just going to quickly go over how to install it on your Windows machine, and then we'll move on to the configuration. So the first thing you want to do when you're installing Rclone is navigate to the site, and you will pick the binary that suits your operating system. So you see they have Windows, Mac, Linux. So you're just going to download that file. Has everyone been able to install and download that? Okay, cool. So I can move pretty quickly. From that download, you're going to get the Rclone in your downloads here. And what you want to do is in your C drive, this is how I set it up, because we're going to just create a path variable so we can use it on the command line. You're gonna just create a new Rclone folder here. And when you download the binary, you just want to extract everything to the file you just created. So assuming you have the file and you have your new Rclone folder, you're gonna go to browse. It's where you want to extract and just navigate in your C drive to that Rclone folder that you have just created and select that folder. I'm not going to do it because it's already there for me, but once you select that and hit select folder, everything will be extracted there. So we can go and look at that. And you just want to make sure that the Rclone executable is there, and we're going to go ahead and update the path. You might not have the file extensions like I don't, but you can see under type, it says application. So we have what we need to continue. Okay, and this is all in the documentation. All right, so assuming we've had the extracted files, we just want to add the Rclone command to our path now so we can use it in our command line. There's a command line interface. So we're going to navigate to advanced system properties. I just go this way. I type advanced system settings. Oops, I have to log in. Sorry. All right. So in my systems properties, and again, this is for Windows 10, it might be a bit different if you have another Windows systems like 11 or something like that. But you go to your environment variables, and you're going to select the path here, and we're just going to edit the path to add Rclone. So we're just going to go to edit. I already have it here, but pretend that I don't. Go to new, and then browse. And again, we're going to navigate to that Rclone file that we just created and extracted everything to. So we're going back to the C drive. Move this up. We're going back to the C drive here. And then we're just going to select Rclone. And then you'll hit OK for all of the windows. Again, I already did that, so I'm not going to install it again. But once you have that, Rclone should be installed on your computer. And what you want to do now is just to test that the command is working, is you can open the command line interface of your choice. I'm using PowerShell, but you can use whatever you have. And just, I'll do Rclone version, which should tell me the version of Rclone and some information about my system. So hopefully that pops up, and now we're ready for the next section. So how's everyone doing? Successful, not successful? Okay, great. So we'll move on to Rclone config. And so the reason we installed this locally is once we get to the authentication with Google Drive, it's going to ask us to input a command into our local system. So we just needed to do that step preliminarily so you can continue with the configuration. Okay, so now we're on part 11, back in the workshop. And so Rclone is a utility to help you sync directories between cloud storage options. And it also helps you move files between them as well. So we're going to be using Rclone in Koa, and we're going to move some files between our Google Drive for this demo. So the first thing we're going to do is navigate to the Koa shell. So you might be prompted, if you're not already logged in, to for your dual authentication when you're logging into Koa. So you can go ahead and do that. And once everyone has access this dashboard, just let me know. And I'll put this link in the chat just so it's a little easier.
Oh, I put it in the chat.
Oh, okay, great, thanks. Good, okay, great. So just navigate to clusters and Koa access shell. And what we're going to do is configure our Rclone so it can work with our Google Drive account. So you'll be prompted again at some point to log into your Google Drive, your personal Google Drive, but that'll come a bit later. So the first command we put in is Rclone config. And this is like a wizard. It's going to take us step by step through the configuration process. And the first thing it's going to ask us is if we want a new remote. If you had done this before, you might see another remote in there, but we're going to create a new one. So we're going to hit N for new remote and hit enter. And we're just going to name it. This can be any name that's significant to you. In the documentation, we just call it Rclone-G drive. So that's the name we're going to use. But you can really name it anything you'd like. So once you've named it, you can see all of the cloud storage providers and vendors that Rclone works with. Today, we're going to use Google Drive, which is 18, not to be confused with Google Cloud Storage. So we're just going to go in and put in 18 here. But obviously, if you're working with something else, you could select a different provider. Everyone okay so far? It's a pretty quick process. Okay. For client ID, we're just going to leave that blank. And client secret, we're also going to leave that blank, so you can just hit enter. Okay, and so now we're in the scope, which is, how much access do we want Rclone to have? For this, we're going to use full access, so we're going to put in 1, which means, it can read and write to our Google Drive and transfer things as well. So we're just going to hit 1. And we're also going to leave this service account portion blank as well. The next question is edit advanced configuration. We're not going to do that. So we're also going to click no. Okay, so this is this is the reason why we installed Rclone locally. It's asking if you are using a remote machine. So since we're in COA, we are using a remote machine. If you were doing this from your local computer, you could hit yes, and it would happen automatically. But since we're in the shell, we'll hit no. And so now we have this, this command that we need to copy onto our local machine. And what that's going to do is authenticate Rclone so that it could access our Google Drive. So go ahead and copy this code right here, and I'm going to put it into my PowerShell. All right, so it happened pretty fast, but once I put that command into PowerShell, you can see that in my browser, it's asking me to log in to my Google Drive and give Rclone access. So my account's already here. You might have to log in if you're not already logged in on your browser. And now it's asking, do you want to give Rclone access? And we do. So we're going to hit allow. And then it was successful, so we can actually close out of this. And when we go back to the shell, when we go back to our command line, we have this very long key here that we're just going to copy and put into the COA shell. So that's our configuration token. Oops. It's okay. It's okay. So once you paste that, paste in the config token, just hit enter. Well, actually, let me check. How are people doing with that portion of it? Okay. Okay. And you do not want to configure this as a shared drive. Then the last thing it asks you is if you want to keep the drive. So yes, we do. And that's the end of the configuration. So at this point in the shell, you can hit quit or hit Q, and we're done. So actually, if you, before you hit Q, or you can still hit it, but you can see now under name and type, we do have that Rclone G drive in our current remotes because we've just set that up. How's it working? Okay. No. So now we can move on to the G drive portion. I'm just gonna go to the next point. Right, so Rclone must be configured on the server before you can transfer data. So we just finished the configuration. So we'll transfer some data. Okay. So we're gonna go back into the Koa shell, and we're going to see now that when we put in this command, Rclone LSF, and then this is just the name of our remote. So this is the name I used. If you use a different name, just put the name you input here. But we're gonna look now, we should be able to see the files that we have in our Google Drive. Okay, so now you can see basically these are all the files in my Google Drive, and I can actually show you, it's reflecting what is in my personal Google Drive. So that worked. So the next thing that we want to do is we're just going to use the make directory command and create a folder now in our remote called Rclone files. And this is just to test that we can move things back and forth.
You're gonna want the Rclone command before that.
Oh, thank you. All right, so I've just made this directory Rclone test, and we can see it here. And we're going to change directories into that directory that I just made. Okay. So now the next thing we can do is navigate. Oops, I needed something else. Okay. We can go into our Google Drive now. So hopefully you're logged in there. But now it's saying to go over into your Google Drive and create a test folder. So I'm just going to create a new file. New folder. I'm just adding the two because I already have an Rclone test file. Okay. Okay, and then in our new file in our Google Drive, in our Rclone test folder, we're just going to create a new test file. Okay, so now we're gonna go back into the shell and we're going to copy the contents from the Google Drive to Koa. So we can copy and paste this command, or you can type it in back into the shell. And I'm just gonna change it because I changed the name of my file on my Google Drive, so I'm just going to update that. And what this command is saying is, is asking Rclone to copy the contents from the source. So this portion here is our Google Drive into the destination, which is our Koa clone test directory that we created. And the dot just signifies that we want the destination to be our current directory that we're in. So hit enter. Oh, whoops.
Do you call it _2 instead of 1?
Yes. All right, thank you. So that worked. Okay, so let's just check to see what we have in the folder. So here we go. We see that test file that we made in the Google Drive is now in Koa. And that's one way you can transfer data. And so then the next exercise is we're going to create a file in Koa and transfer it to G Drive. All right, so we're just going to copy the file that we created and name it something else. So again, this source destination pattern. So I have the test file here, and I'm just going to create another test file and name it test file 2. Oops.
I think that was just because you got a $sign at the beginning of the last command.
Okay. Don't copy the $sign. There we go. Okay, so I copied the file. So if I ls again, we should be able to see 2 files. Great. And so then the next thing we want to do is just move it to G Drive. So we're going to do another Rclone copy. So I'm going to copy this command and not put in the shell. Oops. Oh yeah, here.
Well, awesome.
Oh yeah, good call. Thank you. All right. Okay, so I've just copied the command was asking Rclone to copy the test file that we made and now put that into the Google Drive, which is the destination. So now when we go back, oops, into Google Drive, we should see that test file. So, yeah. I'm just creating another file so it's clear in the transfer. You don't have to do this. All right, so now we see our, oh, there's my first test file, and then here's the second test file. And that is it. They have other instructions here for if you need to copy, obviously, more than one file. If you want to, if you have like larger files to copy and things like that, you can use these other commands here for a larger file transfer. Obviously, we just transferred one file back and forth. But you could use that as well. So I'll stop for questions. If not, we can move on to the assessment portion.
How long does it usually take to transfer notified, let's say,
That, let me ask Sean. Sean, the question was, how long in Rclone does it take to transfer larger files? What was your example size? Oh, like 5 gigabytes?
It's so yeah, it's going to depend on like what systems you're moving the data to and from. Really, so if you're moving data between two HPC systems, it should be relatively fast. People have used Rclone. So folks at Clemson use this to move like 100 terabytes of data from Clemson, like over to someplace in California, and they basically were able to saturate the network enough that they almost shut down the commercial endpoint over there. And so they moved it, actually, I think they were moving it into Google, honestly, when it was still unlimited. So Google started throttling Rclone a little bit after that. So you can move data really fast with Rclone. Just depends on the network and the endpoints there. So you it should hopefully move data close to some of the speeds you can get with Globus, although it's not going to be quite as robust as Globus would be. So if where you're moving data from is has Globus support, then I would recommend using that over Rclone.
Cool, thanks.
So for Sean, so I have like over 400 gigabytes data sets on the Jetstream 2, and I wish to move that to the AWS Elastic file system there. So there is
You want to move it from Jetstream to which system?
AWS.
Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon, and they have like EFS system, just Elastic file system.
Yeah.
So it was on the global and also on Rclone. I didn't see the option for Jetstream 2 or
I would say Rclone is probably the option you want to use since it has AWS support.
yeah, but it seems like only S3 storage S3 there. Yeah, I saw Amazon there, but it's only they're like Elastic file system plans.
I'm pretty sure people use Rclone to move it to AWS for EC2.
Okay.
Let's see. Isn't well, actually, don't you have to use the S3 storage on EC2?
Sorry. Okay. Do I have to repeat it again? I didn't pick you.
Oh, can you repeat that, Sean? We didn't hear what you just said.
So isn't the AWS storage, don't you where you stage data in, is it S3 that you mount on the EC2 instances?
Actually, I mean, the S3 is for long-term storage. The reason we use the EFS is because we just want to do a short term, and also I think that's can be also mounted on like multiple instances.
Let's see. Yeah, I don't know about EFS. I'm just looking this up. Some of the comments are that it doesn't have the same thing as a similar API as other services do.
So just for sure, like the Rclone just definitely work for like from Stream to the AWS, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that? So it's unfortunately that room has got like a really bad echo with whatever that unit in the back of the room has.
Oh, just the Rclone definitely work for the Stream 2 and transfer data from Stream 2 to the AWS EC2, right?
So for the EFS storage for AWS, it doesn't sound like Rclone will move data with that for that. I think you need to probably use the EFS utilities from Amazon maybe to have to move some of that data.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Did anyone else have any other questions?
Quick question, Sean. If you wanted to, like, if you just want to get under your drive capacity now with the quota and all that that's being set, or the capacity limits that are being set, what's the best way if you want to just get it onto, like, get a ton of files onto like your local hard drive?
So I guess Rclone you can install on your laptop for your local hard drive to pull data down. Would probably be pretty simple. Or if you have the sync client, you could sync it down and then copy it over and delete it as well, would be a different way.
Okay.
But Rclone would be probably pretty fast to download it, and then you're gonna have to download it somewhere and then delete it out of Google Drive once you're confident you've got the data that you want.
Is there like a GUI or something where you could like select all and drag, kind of like how like with Globus, or do you have to like individually type every file name type of thing? Like
there is an Rclone GUI that it's a web server that you have to run on your own machine.
Because like if you have a ton of files in there, I can imagine like it almost becomes impossible, right? I mean, not impossible, but you'd have to sit there and like move, I guess, files into folders and then just move an entire directory. But you know, you have that main drive that might have a bunch of individual files. Is it better to just move those into?
I think you could use like star and regex type selections in Rclone. If you're wanting to, like, I believe, filtering using filters with Rclone here, I think you can do star like in your directory, grab every file. Or you can do things like I only like star dot some file extension to only grab files that are, say, like netcdf files, like if it was a star.nc or something like that, that would try and do that. So you can use these the regex like glob style filtering things.
Right.
So patterns, and as Candace showed, you can actually pull like just an entire folder. So if you have a folder of files, you just put the folder name and download the whole folder.
So it'll automatically do it if you just give it the folder name and the command.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I was thinking because I have a whole bunch of like loose files, like not in folders. And I was thinking maybe the best thing to do is just move that all into a folder and then I don't know, name it miscellaneous or something, and then just move that whole folder onto my local drive.
Yeah, you might look at the filtering section here. I'll just throw this the rclone.org/filtering to get a better idea of some of the different options that you might have for selecting what stuff you want to transfer if you're depending on how your stuff is organized. So I'll show that in the chat.
How much storage space do we have on our home directory in Koa again?
So I think the new Koa is like 25 gigs of storage in home. What we did is for labs. So if your PI, all I got to do is request. We have half a terabyte of storage that a lab can request. So PI can just request that and we'll grant that. So instead of large home directories now, what we're doing is this like group storage type thing for labs, so they can get half a terabyte of storage for a PI's lab.
That everybody could access those files.
Everybody in the lab, yeah. So the PI can request that gets set up, and then who add their lab members to that storage.
Can our advisor like set permissions as to what folders can be viewed by everybody and not then, or?
It's regular POSIX type stuff. So but for the most part, I would think that if you add people to that storage space, then yeah, you regulate that how you kind of want, but it's regular POSIX sort of permissions. So I think people are by default, when you add them to that storage, it's a group membership.
Got it. Okay. All right, cool. Thanks.
Is there another question? Nope. Okay, I think we can go with the assessment then, because we're at about that time.
All right, what's one more question? I'm not sure if you know, but what's the limit now, the limit on the Google Drive capacity that they're gonna instill?
So for students, it's 25 gigabytes of storage for student like personal UH accounts, and then for faculty it's 100 gigs, and then a shared drive is 25 gigs on the shared drive.
And what's a normal email account typically?
What?
Normal Gmail account that's not associated with edu.
Is it 5 or 7?
Oh wow.
So it's not very much for like a normal one.
Right. It feels like even 25 isn't much when you go from limitless.
Yeah, this has impacted academia pretty hard since Google removed unlimited from everybody. So
it's every university. It's not just us for some reason.
Yep, they took it away from they had given it to all of the academic institutions that had basically adopted Google for Education. So everyone had unlimited. Stanford and other folks, they had many petabytes of data in Google Drive.
Okay.
So yeah, so we're not unique. We're actually later in like migrating out than some other institutions have been. So
Thanks.